Restaurant Unstoppable. What the most successful restaurateurs know that you don't. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, the owner and operator of the Acorn Grill, Brandon Knoepfle. Brandon, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Definitely feeling unstoppable, man.
Dude, I am so excited to have you here. I'm feeling unstoppable because I've known you now for what, like almost a year? Because you have been listening to the show. I don't know how long. But you've been a part of the network since the very beginning. I think you're actually my very first member of the network. And I just can't say thank you enough for your support. And it's crazy being the host of Restaurant Unstoppable. I constantly come across people. And at first impressions, I'm like, oh, just another person in the network. And I really don't know a lot about those people until I develop a relationship with them. And every once in a while, I'm just blown away by like the rock stars that are surrounding me. And I don't know how lucky I am sometimes to know some of these great people. And you're absolutely one of those people that, as I got to know them, the story started to unfold. And I've just been blown away with you in the network, your participation, your knowledge, your desire to constantly grow, dude. So
thanks, man.
We are going to get a great episode today. I know we are, and I'm so excited to make an example of you. But before we dive into who you are and what your story is, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
What it's been for the last year, man, is especially with everything that's going on with COVID, patience and persistence, man, makes for an unbeatable combination for success.
Patience and persistence. How has that served you over time?
So I'm naturally, I think a lot of us, especially in today's world, aren't very patient. We want everything. We want it right now.
Yeah.
We feel like, there's a sense of entitlement, or we've seen somebody else do something, but we didn't hear the story of like where they, what it took for them to get where they're at today. So
we think everybody's an overnight success.
Absolutely,
because
man.
usually when people make it, they explode, and all of a sudden everybody knows about them at once.
For sure.
But nobody knew about them the 10 years before that when they were grinding, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely, dude. And I think you're another example. You're an example of that too, and people will see why as we get going. But where does it make sense to start telling your story? Because you did work in restaurants. But you didn't know that you were going to open a restaurant. You weren't committed to this as a career until recently, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know exactly.
Yes and no. I mean, I'm going to say yes.
Yes, you weren't committed?
Yeah.
Or you were?
It was always a dream of mine. It was always a goal of mine. The restaurant industry was like, I guess back up a little bit. My parents owned a restaurant when I was a kid, and then my dad migrated into a restaurant of his own, a pizza shop kind of thing. So it was kind of already in my blood a little bit.
Got it.
But yeah, man, it was like 7 years ago I wrote down as a 5-year goal to open a restaurant.
Okay.
And the restaurant industry was like the one restaurant that I really took to. And that kind of took me in as one of their own, because I think of all the hodgepodge of all the people and the the unique culture that is with that.
So 2014 is when you said, I'm in 5 years going to open my own restaurant. You did it in 3 years, which is awesome. You grew up in the restaurant industry. Any lessons from your parents about what to do, or any mistakes they made that you learned not to do, or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't really think that they ran restaurants. I think they just sold food. You know what I mean? Like it was a complete different. And the restaurant, the original restaurant that they owned together, and it was actually kind of why they divorced, which I guess I learned from that. But they only had it for like a year or so. So it was just this crazy idea they thought they were going to be able to do, and it became overwhelming and time consuming.
Where were you during this? Like, when they owned the restaurant, how old were you?
So I was just a baby, man, but I grew up with these stories of when they did this, know.
Okay. From the stories you've heard, what are the things, knowing what you know now, being a part of the network, listening to all these other stories of restaurateurs, and growing as a person yourself, what do you think didn't work with them?
I think they were opening it, and I see this a lot with restaurant owners, and that's okay. I mean, but they were opening for the wrong reasons. It was more of the allure, the broad shoulders, and it seemed like it was easy. So that's I don't do that here. I don't go and sit at my tables and act like some whatever, because I'm just like everybody else. I mean, hell, I'm a fry cook if I have to be. I'm a dishwasher if I have to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So this is going way back to when you're a baby, young. You grew up, you work in restaurants. Was there a point in your career prior to 2014 in the restaurant industry where you had somebody who you were just like, wow, they're doing it right?
Yeah, they didn't own their own restaurants, but I had met the managers that like mentored me along the way. One back in, it was 2006, I think. His name was Ira, and we worked at corporate at Crapplebee's, that whole deal. And he was a manager there, and he had owned restaurants and done all that, and then he kind of retired. But when he retired, he got into restaurant management for corporate, so somebody else would handle the stuff.
Yep.
And he taught me so much, man. There was so much value with this guy. And I think the one thing that really stands out for me is like, because I would get so like obsessive compulsive about like getting my tables right. And then, through Applebee's, I went from serving to bartending, to a key hourly, that kind of thing, expo. But he'd always tell me, he's like, Brandon, it's just food. Calm down. Like, don't get yourself out of, being out of shape about it.
Okay. So reflecting back some of the big lessons he taught you, any gems surfacing?
I think it was just kind of that,
that mentality of it's just food, don't lose your cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So take us to that example of what was like the internal dialogue that would be happening with you. And then how do you kind of walk yourself off that cliff now?
Sure. Yeah. And it's kind of still the same mentality. I mean, even when I was just like, an employee for a restaurant, that perfectionism, that I wanted that control. I was angry at the back of the line because they didn't get my food right, and then I had to go and serve this customer, whatever. Or I was angry because two people didn't show up for their shift, and I didn't have any control over that.
Yeah.
And I wanted everything to be perfect, even though I was just a team member there.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that we can learn is that we don't have to control everything. Like we have ideal situations, right? And it's something we should be striving for. But when the shit hits the fan, it's going to hit the fan. Obsessing over how it's not right is going to get in the way of just doing what you can in that moment to win back the guests, or it's going to pull from the recovery, right? What are your thoughts as I'm saying that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it was actually until, and kind of jumping ahead a little bit here, till I met Jose, who's my partner now. Like we just brought him on. I just brought him on as a full partner, man.
Just when?
Like 2 weeks ago, dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't think we haven't even talked about this in the network yet.
Nah, kind of.
So when did Jose come on scene? We are getting ahead of ourselves.
A little bit, yeah. But Jose came on the scene of Acorn Grill January. Actually, I interviewed him January 1st, 2019. Our first kind of met him interview, and through him working here. But anyway, my point with bringing him up so early in this is I'm watching him, and we're working side by side. I mean, this guy had incredible grind and hustle, man, just like but he didn't have that like, obsessive compulsive, everything has to be perfect, controlling thing. I'm just watching him. He's like, it'll be all right. I've worked at a lot of restaurants that were way worse than this, and they, at systems or different things. He's like, just calm down a little bit, man.
So it's the same. It's like you're echoing the lessons that Ira taught you.
Exactly.
But he also has that owner's like that bug, or like that gene that makes people want to have that strive for excellence. I think that is important. And I think it's good to have that. You want that, but you can't let it swarm and like blind everything else. Like you can't. What's the word I'm looking for? Just they can be blinders sometimes. So I want to talk more about Jose, but going back, I feel like it's worth. I mean, you were incarcerated, and I know that's a big part of your story. When does that come into the picture?
Yeah. So I kind of here in rural Indiana, where we're at right now. It was a different time, man. Meth was taking over, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about drugs and stuff like that too, man. So the meth scene was really blowing up here, and
what's the year?
This is 2001 or so, man.
Okay.
Was the first time I ever really got like locked up, man, and it was as a juvenile.
Yeah. How old were you in 2001?
I had like 16, I think, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back 20 years ago. Exactly.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. So 36 now.
37, I think.
37 now.
Yeah.
Okay. So 2001, take us to that point.
So 2001, man, it didn't really have any parental control, man.
Parental control?
Yeah, like my dad wasn't around, dude.
Okay.
My mom was busy working, you know, 3 other kids to worry about, single parent, you know, that same old story, man. So I was off with my friends all the time and kind of making friends and families with other people that I probably shouldn't have, older people, kind of looking for that parental figure.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of partying and doing whatever I wanted, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, my first arrest was minor consumption, alcohol, and that kind of snowballed into, you know, a lot worse charges over, you know, time after I turned 18.
Okay. And what point was like? What would you say like what your lowest point was? I know you did a lot of traveling. When you were in Applebee's, you were in Florida?
Yeah, I was in Florida. Yeah.
Okay. So between 2001 and 2006, like, well, were you working in restaurants at this time?
2001 and 2006, well, off and on, like.
But just like a for now job, right?
Yeah.
You weren't taking it seriously until Applebee's is probably when you started to really evolve as a restaurant professional.
No, it was the job after Applebee's.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there's a big timeline, so it's real kind of hard to nail down the timeline. So I'll kind of just summarize a little bit.
Yeah.
So after I turned 18, getting locked up again. I was in jail when I was 18, man, as a minor in jail even. Not long after that, I ended up going to prison for the first time, Indiana Department of Corrections. Through that prison sentence, at the end of it, I was allowed to have work release in the prison. Like I was still in prison, but like they have this special house for guys.
Yeah.
And I worked in a restaurant there. So that was my first real big introduction to the restaurant industry. This was in Indianapolis.
And this is like 2003, 2004.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So you get released from this situation where can go back to life as you knew it. And is that when you made your way down to Florida?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of like one of those situations. Like, all right, I'm 21 now. Like, it's time to start getting my life together.
Yeah.
And I thought I could just move away from the element. Those elements, drug addiction, lack of discipline, kind of have a tendency of following you.
Yeah.
So it was literally, and Applebee's in Florida was my first gig, and I left here trying to kind of escape whatever I was, and find my way. And it was so ironic, man. The first day I walked in from my shift at Applebee's, like I met the expo, like I was tucking in my shirt in the bathroom, and the expo's in there like putting alcohol into his cup at like 10 a.m. in the morning. Jeez. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna be friends, dude. And we became like really good friends, man. Yeah.
Well, it's weird because like it's all you knew, like relativity, right? You grew up with that being normal, and you tend to gravitate towards what you know, right? And I think you had the right mentality of you are the average of those you surround yourself with. So if you're trying to break habits, you can't. People, places, and I think like things or like habits are the things that will trigger bad habits that coming back. So you got to get away from those things. But the hard thing is in the restaurant industry, we're plagued with those people. So it's hard if you're trying to recover to work in this industry to not have the temptation, right? So at this point, I'm assuming you're not thinking like that quite yet. You're kind of just like, oh, like, yeah, what's going through your mind?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to chill on it. I wanted to control it. Is a better way to put it. I wanted to just be that like, ordinary person that could go after work, maybe have a couple of beers, or smoke whatever, things like that, man. And mine was different, man. I had to wake up with it. I had to like do it, drugs and alcohol in during my shift to get through the shift. At the end of the shift, if it was rainy, I wanted to. I was depressed, so I'd drink or, do drugs. If it was, a sunshiny day, I'd celebrate that with,
Yeah. Do you mind me asking, like, what's the hardest shit you were doing?
At the end of it, man, what I consider myself recovering from was heroin.
Okay. And when was that in this timeline?
Last time I used heroin, man, was February 28th, 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 6 years after where we are as far as our timeline goes. Because 2006, you're in Florida, you're working at Applebee's, you grow within Applebee's. You already mentioned this mentor, Ira, what they taught you about just like controlling mental, like your emotions, right? Emotional intelligence. I mean, Applebee's, yeah, it's a big corporation, but at the same time, we can learn a lot from big corporations. So what do you think? I mean, let's go to 30,000 feet. After Applebee's, tell me everything else you did.
Sure. So I got fired from Applebee's. Like I was wanting to get fired. It was one of those situations, and I couldn't get myself to quit because I just had such an attachment there with everybody. But a lot of them taking advantage of, me always saying yes to shifts and anyway. So I ended up getting fired for getting way too drunk on shift. And
oh, really?
I cussed out this lady. It was kind of a bad situation. But anyway, different, that's another story. So I left there and went into my first independently owned unit, I guess. And this really wasn't a restaurant. It was a place called Naples Fort Myers Greyhound Track. So they had multiple floors, multiple bars. It was this whole event center kind of thing. And anyway, ended up working my way up to assistant food and beverage manager, and that's where I really kind of got my chops in this industry of working so many different areas at once. And it was perfect for me because I love the chaos.
Yeah. So how did you grow as a professional during this time? And what was the time frame?
This was 2008, 7, something like that.
Gotcha. And how long were you there?
A little over a year.
Okay. So what were the biggest evolutionary points where you working? The biggest lessons they taught you?
Some of the managing systems, they didn't really have a lot of solid systems like we have now. I can't really say that I learned a lot there except for how to party really hard and that there's money to be made in this industry if you want to make it. Yeah. But mine all went to the party.
Okay. I think what I want to do, because I feel like your story really starts to take off when you went as low as possible.
Right.
So paint that picture of, I know you were incarcerated, you're back in jail. Just kind of take us to where you were emotionally, what your life was like. And I want to paint that picture of how bad it had gotten for you.
Sure. So whenever I left the Greyhound Track, that's whenever the opiate addiction really took over, man. And that's when things started getting really bad for me. I thought I could leave that situation and move away from it. Anyway, I found my way back up here in Indiana and found my way back incarcerated again in Indiana. Went to prison for 2 years, something like that. I was playing chicken with a state trooper, man, drunk. Not a good idea. Yeah. That was in the official report too. Apprehended Mr. Knoepfle playing chicken with me, doing incarcerated there. I was still using even being incarcerated, man. Got out, things got worse, dude, with the opiate addiction, started banging it, man, and some really terrible stuff, dude. And after I got incarcerated again for dealing this time, that was the big one, man. I was facing 88 years, Jesus. Dude. It was they were gonna bury me, dude, because they were tired of dealing with me. And anyway, so it wasn't the fear of that it was the fear of this is my life, man. This in and out. Okay, I'll go back to the restaurant industry. They'll give me a job, but I'm still in and out, man. I'm still gonna find these same people, and I was just sick and tired, man. So I guess, I seen it working for somebody else, and I still use this same model today, man. It's so weird. Yeah. But I seen it working for somebody else, recovery. And that's when I was like, you know what, if it'll work for that dude, because that dude's way worse than me. Yeah. We always compare ourselves to other people. This has got to work for me. So I just kind of made my mind up, man. And through the help of, I'm a spiritual person. So the help with God and everything, in the programs, man. I was like, I'm going to put more work into this than I've done anything in my life. I'm going to work harder at staying sober than I did at getting not sober. Yeah.
You kind of took us to where you were at the lowest of your low, and you saw other people doing it as far as getting out of that situation. So take us through that journey of, where you kind of painted that picture of where you were, but how did you start living intentionally? And maybe somebody else is listening to this is like, yeah, I'm a fuck up too. Right. Not to call you a fuck up, but you were a little bit of a fuck up. I was a fuck up. Yeah. So if they're listening to this and Brandon did it, I can do it. What are the key elements to getting out of that situation, to turn your life around?
Sure, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation, man, because I don't think we really we don't really talk about this. I mean, in the industry, the problems, man, but it's so rampant.
It's
dude.
Everywhere. It's a plague, man.
Yeah,
and,
man.
And I think the other thing that is good about this is that you're kind of you grew up in a situation where you're almost destined for failure.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
Because that's the world you came up in. You didn't have that role model. I'm not to say your mom wasn't possibly a role model, but you know, you didn't have that foundation you needed, that support group you needed to be set on the right path. And then there's like this, it's what's the word? It's perpetual. You know, we got to break the system.
Right.
You know, we got to break the pattern. And I feel like the only way we do that is by sharing knowledge and making an example of people and encouraging people to be the break of the pattern, right? And to be there for other people who are headed down that road. And to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and we're getting a little bit off track here, but, and it's perfect timing for this, man. Like, a guy I grew up with that we partied with, just passed away 2 days ago, was a cook in a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, and it was, you know, it was intentional passing away. And like, these things are real, man. Like this dude, if he could have gotten more help and like, and help earlier, maybe like things would have changed, and he could have created this beautiful life, and you know, and instead, like, you know, everything, you know, changed in an instant. But let's get back to the
yeah, for sure. And like, I want to again make an example of you, because it is possible to turn it around. It is possible to get on the right track, because you've done it and you're successful. So when was it? Why weren't you in jail for 88 years? What happened there? Where you said you were facing 88 years, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, like, so basically, I had a public defender, and like, you know, that whole deal, man. If anybody's ever, they kind of know, if everybody's ever been incarcerated, they kind of know the deal, man. But like, I told him, he wanted me to like sign this crap, and I said, no, man, like this isn't what it is. These people, they're ballooning it. I was starting to fight back on the system, you know. Yeah. And I was sick, you know, I was kind of sick of them too, man. They were sick of me, but I was sick of them.
Were you saying you didn't play chicken with the police officer?
This was a whole nother, this was another deal, man. But yeah, that time I did.
Got it.
It's funny now. It wasn't funny at the time.
You've gone.
But yeah, man. So anyway, it ended up getting them down. I plead out to like 5 years, do 2 years on house arrest, this whole crap, man. So I didn't end up doing 88 years, obviously, because I'm here today. Yeah. And they always like try to scare you in the beginning, and you know, and get your attention. They kind of did.
It's serious.
Yeah, it's serious. So in the institution that time, like, I started seeking help, and like, they weren't just offering this stuff. So I had to really be intentional and go out of my way and like do these things, man.
What were the things you were doing?
So in the county jail here, they had a cool program, man, that was dedicated towards recovery. So I ended up, you know, like persuading them to let me in the program, and they didn't want to, you know. So after,
why wouldn't they want you to be in the program?
I've got like 4 escape charges.
Oh, from jail?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I was the guy that whenever they let out the block, man, they shackled me and like did this whole thing, you know, and like they wouldn't even let me do any free movement, man. They were afraid I was gonna like fight or run or, you know, batter off, as you know. I was kind of a bad dude, man. Yeah. I wasn't a good dude.
It's crazy because I've known you now for almost a year. It feels like, like, through just like the network and communicating. Not a bad dude.
Total 180, man.
Not a bad dude at all. So it's surprising for me to hear this, but keep going.
Total
so
180.
You got into this program.
Sure, man. That program led to after I ended up getting my sentence, then they ship you off to Department of Corrections, you know, with big boy, you know, all that. So in there, I was like, oh man, you know, I'm struggling here in the county. How am I going to do this? And so I just that intentional, you know, that seeking, you know, opportunities reserved for those who are willing and able, you know. So I was just creating these opportunities, man. Yeah. So there was this cool program in there, and ended up meeting the right dude and got in the program, worked that program to the best of my ability. Still kind of relapsing in there, but you know, still wanting it, man, and wanting it, you know, bad, because I didn't want to get out and like repeat the same mistakes. And I knew what that led to. I was there, man. So just through working the program, man, programs, you know, substance abuse programs, mental health programs, you know, like when I wrote down my goals, like that was like, well, it was a goal planning. What are you going to do? What's your financials look like when you get out? So that's where I wrote down my goal list, man.
So that was 2014. Is that when you said you want to open a restaurant?
Yeah, like I said, my
5
timelines
years?
may be off a little bit. But
Yeah, approximately. So
Right.
you're out. When are you absolutely, you're out of jail?
So I was released in like April 2012.
Okay. So 2 years before you write down that you want to open a restaurant in 5 years.
Yeah.
So the biggest things you did were you went after the opportunity. Nobody's gonna do it for you. You have to go after it. You have to create opportunity for yourself.
For sure.
It's one of the big lessons I'm picking up from you. And then if you are listening to this and thinking to yourself, yeah, that kind of sounds like me, I'm kind of a mess up. Are you going after the opportunity? Like, are you trying to get out of it? Are you taking the steps? I know some of the programs out there don't like you to talk about them as part of being in the program.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do that.
But I'm a part of them.
Yeah. But what is it about these programs that you think are effective? What is it about these programs that worked for you?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, man. I mean, it's not unlike, kind of like your Restaurant Unstoppable network, where you've got a bunch of peers, man, coming together for like a common purpose. You know, using that synergy off each other, and that's the way some of these programs are. You know, the one that I'm a part of, it's a bunch of like-minded people. You know, in that situation, well, at least for me, a screw up. And
trying to be better,
yeah. And using and talking about what tools we're using, and talking about these, these pains, like right now the restaurant industry, it's been hurting, and that's where I've seen a lot of these groups really grow in with the restaurant industry, because so many people are hurting and they're coming together and like joining and banding together and saying, all right, we don't have to be hurting alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hurt with others.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that, from what I understand, as far as why these programs work, is because a lot of use with substance is around habits. It's habitual.
Absolutely.
So you got to replace those habits with new habits, and you have to surround yourself with people who aren't going to be triggers for you. So where do those people go to find their people who aren't the triggers? Together. Because we're all over the place, so we got to come together. I think it's finding those new habits and finding the new people that are huge. So if you're listening to this, who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you in these programs? If not, then how can you create your own program, right? How can you get yourself out of that system or away from these people that are using those drugs or whatever? What's going through your head as I'm saying this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and they don't have to be big groups of people.
Yeah.
I mean, my first group of people in my local program was only 2 dudes, and these were old school dudes that didn't, they drank, I drank, and, drinking was like the least of my worries at this point,
Yeah.
But I still became, still into this day, very good friends of mine, these are my role models, as far as in that side of things. But yeah, man. I mean, and even if not, with the Restaurant Unstoppable network, why did I jump into this? Why am I so active, or try to be so active in this? I don't have a network of restaurant owners, operators around me, because we're so rural, and our time, time constraints is what it is, man.
Yeah, and I think you said so rural, right? In the middle of
rural, country.
Yeah, so
country as hell, yeah.
At least nothing 2 hours west, because I just drove from 2 hours west, and you're the first city in it. So when you are on an island, and the cool thing is today, you can connect with anybody in the country, and people are like you are out there who want to connect and support and talk, and
right.
And thank you for the little plug of the network. But yeah, that's absolutely what we're trying to do, is to bring people together to help each other out. Back to 2012, when you started going through all these programs, and you said you started writing things down, your plan, your strategy to get out of this, to break the pattern. What did that look like? What were the things that you were writing down? What was your plan?
So yeah, it was goal list, man. And then one thing I did that I thought was incredibly lame was I wrote this. I had to write this letter to my inner child. I'm a guy, dude. What's my inner child even got to do with this? Yeah. But it was actually kind of therapeutic, man. But the other thing, with writing stuff down, what really stood out to me was the last time I relapsed. And I remember, it's kind of a funny story, but I don't disclose it. But anyway, I remember feeling incredibly depressed, and oh man, I was getting out in a month and a half, dude, and it's I can't even get it in here, dude. How am I going to get it out there? But anyway, what I did differently, because I was beginning to write, man, I wrote down how I felt. I wrote down the bad crap that I was feeling and stuff like that, man. And that was the last time I used. was just, I don't know what the deal was with me writing it down.
What did you write down?
Well, it was how I felt and how big of a fuck up, I was, becoming. Or
how did you feel?
Terrible, man.
Yeah.
Terrible. I mean, I had like 3 months of sobriety in there, I mean, I'm incarcerated for years at this point, but I'm still relapsing, and I don't know why that was different, man.
I think there's the power of writing things down. I mean,
Sure.
when you wrote that down, you wrote down how you felt, but what is it about what you wrote that changed you?
It had to have been like waking up the next morning. We often forget things, we'll have these great ideas at night or have these feelings at night, and we won't write anything down, and then we forget that. So I think it was repeating that to myself, putting myself back into that moment, maybe reliving it. Exactly. Yeah.
So you wrote how just your emotion of how down you felt, and writing that down was making it real, and you never wanted to be there again. So
for sure.
Did you put this someplace? Was it a reminder? Did you like tape it to the wall out by the door? Like what did you do to never forget that?
So, I mean, still being incarcerated, I didn't really have like a lot of like, space to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was in the front of my notebook, and I still have this to this day.
Okay.
It's in my garage in this one little like kind of
so you can go back to it if you need
right
to.
If I ever need to go back to it. It's cool to kind of explore those things, but especially the 180 I've taken a day, man, to kind of go back and like try to get in that mind frame, and like it's so foreign to me now.
Yeah. So what was it like having this record, right? Trying to get right, because the system's fucked up, man. Like when people do want to make it right, it's almost impossible for them because they can't get the support because. Oh, yeah. So how did you do it? How did you get the support? How did you you're in an anomaly, like what was it about you that is different about others who can't get out of it?
It was, it was those basic principles of like creating the opportunities, no matter, that's kind of a recurring theme now, or, in this, but, that and the fact that I was, I hate to use the term desperate, but like I wanted this thing so bad because my alternative wasn't
the freedom
from addiction.
Inner, devil or whatever.
At that time, there was no like, what does 10, 20 years really look like as far as finance? There was no clear picture on that. I just wanted freedom from the addiction and just to kind of have some sort of a normalcy in my life, and so, that's really got to be, I mean, I was willing to do whatever the hell it took, and listen. And if somebody said jump, I jumped, and sometimes twice,
So what happened between this moment in 2014 when you wrote down you want to open a restaurant in 5 years?
So it was 2012 I wrote that down, and then I opened the restaurant in 2017. So I mean, it was like dead on 5 years.
Oh,
man.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think one thing to do is to make a goal to write it down, and then
absolutely,
and then it becomes real, right?
It
and
does.
Then it's the clock's ticking, right? And that how did you actually execute? How did you get to open your own restaurant? Take us to the early days of the restaurant.
Oh man, that's worse than the part before. You know what I mean? Because here I'm sober, I'm trying to do everything right, man. In this an island, this community where there's not a whole lot of like resources and stuff like that, So my first gig was in the restaurant industry when I got out, and I worked there for like 3 years, and I hated that job, man. Like I'd shovel shit for peanuts before I'd do that job again, but I couldn't change anything.
Where were you working?
It was at a local restaurant. Like I was like the only one in the back of the house, man. Okay. It was so much pressure, dude. And there's alcohol and all this stuff, man. Like all these temptations.
Yeah.
And like here I'm trying to stay sober, like by myself, all alone in the back of this place. You know what I mean? I had nobody to relate to. And that's where I had to like go to my external, my groups and my
offload.
Right.
Yeah.
And with that group, like I just said yes to everything. Like if they needed somebody to open the doors to, carry the money bag, like they were the first people to actually trust me with anything because, why would anybody else trust me?
So you're saying the group is the restaurant that you're working for?
No, the group is my support group, I guess is a good way to put it.
Why was there money involved with that?
They got to pay for they got to keep the lights on and, pay for candy and coffee.
Got it. So they started trusting you to kind of be a leader within the group.
Yeah.
How did that influence you?
Oh man, it was an incredible honor. Like the first time they started, they gave me the keys to the place and everything else, man. But I remember I had to walk home to by the bar every night, after the meeting, and like I always have these thoughts, like, man, wouldn't it be funny if I went in here and spent the treasury money like buying everybody shots? Like I never did that, but I always like that like rebellious side always wanted to do that. Like I'll show you for trusting me, that self-sabotaging thing that we kind of get into, but. Anyway, to kind of move forward out of that, man, worked at that restaurant for like 3 years, hated it. They kind of screwed me over, dude, like cut my hours for like no reason, man. While I was going to college, I thought college was the answer, and it wasn't the restaurant industry. I was trying to get away from it, man. Mm-hmm. It was construction, like the next best thing to get into, right? And construction management. And anyway, so I just paid off all my student loan debt, and they cut my hours significantly, dude, because they were trying to pivot how this restaurant was ran. Yeah. It was a country club, okay. I guess. So they kind of screwed me over. Went into heavy equipment operation. Worked there for a while, man, because finding a job wasn't easy, man. Yeah. I couldn't just walk into.
Well, at this point, we're 3 years into your 5-year goal.
Right. Yeah. We're getting close, man. Yeah. And I'd kind of done forgot about this too. Like I didn't. I was still talking about it. Like maybe I can make this happen, but like I got to make everything. I got to make sure I pay my bills first, right? Yeah. Because at that time I'd bought a house, man. Which very small, quaint house I still own today. Yeah. Anyway, from them laying me off into the heavy equipment operation, a friend of mine got me in there, and then that didn't work out for me. Kind of a family kind of deal where not mine, like blood was thicker than water. Jobs were running short, and I was the first one cut, and I was the first one gone. Didn't matter how hard I worked at it, right? Yeah. And that's whenever the opportunity presented itself, and it did not seem like an opportunity, man, at that time. It was an incredibly depressing time for me, because here I'm doing all these things right, man. I'm staying sober, I'm going to church, I'm tithing my money, doing everything that I'm told to do, and disciplined on how I had to do it, or I was supposed to do it, at least what I thought was. And then the rug just gets swept up, from under me, man. What happened? I lost my job from no fault of my own, just because there was no work around. Yeah. And I just got married, and found out my wife was pregnant, which was intentional, so I'm like, here I'm this dad. I've got 4 felonies on my record. I'd apply for to be the trash man, and they'd turn me down. I mean, the trash company wouldn't even hire me, Well,
this is 2014.
This is 14 and 15. Yeah. It was this is like a year period here.
Got it. So what did you end up doing? Where did you end up working?
I didn't.
So you're unemployed?
Yes and no. Actually, that's when I first decided, and it was through a very, very depressing night. There was a lot going on in my head, and I'm grateful to still be here today. That was one of those nights, because I was just like, man, I'm just a screw up, man. Like, it doesn't matter
what I do.
I've opened up so many doors for myself, but I just can't get the right door to open. Yeah. And that's when I decided, man, stop trying to open up other people's doors. Create your own doors. Yeah. And that's whenever I made it to where, and how I was going to stop chasing other people's dreams, and I was going to build my own. Yes. And so,
what's that quote? Like you can either try to make someone else's dreams come true, or make your own dreams come true, or something like that. Yeah. So how did you start living differently from this moment?
So that's whenever I created an idea. Like something that I knew that could generate some income, and not have to work for anybody else. I had all these side hustles already, like mowing people's lawns, or just painting their living room or something. Anything I would say yes to that could bring in some extra money already. Yeah. But that that's whenever I started developing mobile apps. I knew hardly anything about this industry, and I just thought, it's incredibly cheap to get into. Like all you need is a computer and some time and the willingness to learn. And so that's what I did, man. And I just completely immersed myself in this.
So how did you get away from it? How deep did you get into that, and why did you get away from it?
Man, I was in it like for a little over a year, and I kind of did some gray hat development where I'd take like pieces of other people's codes and like put it into mine because I really don't know how to code. And
but you can read it and you can understand.
Yeah, and then the graphic, the graphic design and the development, I would use any kind of tools I could have available to me, and through that, like, one of the best things I learned from it was marketing. It doesn't matter how crappy your product is, as long as the marketing's good, you at least track people to it. You create that noise. Yeah. You at least bring people to it.
What were the biggest lessons about marketing that you learned that you still apply during this time?
Oh, there's so many, man. At that time I was doing like a push marketing. Now I do pull marketing.
What's the difference?
What's the difference? If like it's pushing push marketing is like me just like going out and like putting billboards everywhere and like doing, commercials, paid commercials and, Facebook ads and all this stuff, like just trying to get the awareness out there. And that's okay. At some point. The pull is like the word of mouth, like creating a good brand, having other people do the marketing for you, organic reach through social,
or giving a little bit of something to get the door open, and then giving a little bit more of something to develop the relationship even stronger, and then like your big ask, or like, hey, join our rewards or whatever it is, where you have them like long term.
Right.
So just adding value in increments.
Absolutely.
Got it. So you learn about marketing. What else do you learn about marketing? Is there anything, other tricks you can talk about?
Oh yeah, there's so many, man. But you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah,
right now. I wasn't thinking about talking about marketing.
Well, let me just talking about this moment in time when you're developing these apps. You're doing it for a solid year. Like, how did you make a lot of money?
I felt like I was on the cusp of really breaking through. So what I would do is I would build these apps. And like game apps mainly, and I would build a Facebook page around it. I would build a web page around it. I'd build this whole like almost like company around it, and it was it was all virtual. Yeah. And then I would take it and I would sell it to somebody that was overseas that was looking into getting this industry passively, that just wanted something in the stores, and that's what I would do. For the most part, I had my own out there, and I would put like advertisements on these ads, so I could generate a little bit of income. But honestly, like if what did I make in that time? Like I could have probably worked for McDonald's for 40 hours and made just as much than I did working 80 hours for myself. But at least I was doing something for myself, man. Yeah.
But did this lead to another opportunity? Because how did you get off that track to get into restaurants again?
So then the opportunity, opened where the location we're in right now. The business that was here was moving and had getting their own space, and I seen the opportunity and I thought now's the time. So I presented this with what was my first partner, and it was actually my mom, because I was like, I wanted to create something for her so she could have kind of this something opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. So in talking to her, she wanted to do something different, and I basically told her, I'm like, look, I'm out, but I'll help you build it.
You're out of the restaurant.
I don't want to be your partner.
Okay.
I don't want to partner with you. I don't want to run it day to day. I'm doing my own thing with the apps. This is getting ready to take off, as I believed. Yeah. And anyway, and I'm going to give you this. I'm going to do all the work for you to build it. Put everything in place, equipment, everything else.
And then I'm going to hand it to you.
And then this is yours to run.
So where's she now?
She's not my partner anymore. I'm still running.
Is it weird to talk about that, or can you talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I can talk about it, man. Because there's a lot of lessons there if anybody's listening. What
are they?
So after like 3 days of like praying and like thinking like this, and I knew my mom, she was like this workaholic. And so I knew that she was just going to like work herself to death for this. And it was probably not going to be well for her, in a year or two, like it just wasn't going to work. So I knew that she needed, more help than that. So I told her, I said, all right, look, I'll stop what I'm doing with the apps and I'll jump on board, but we've got to do it this way. And this way was building the systems, doing it how I feel is the right way, like understanding what our cost of goods are, understanding what our recipe costs are.
Where did you know about these things? How did you know about these things? Like
Applebee's. Yeah, the corporate world.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like Applebee's gets a lot of like hate sometimes, but at the same time, it's a good way to go into work for any corporation. It's a good way to see what systems, processes, and procedures should look like. And all small businesses should treat themselves like big businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So, Did she not like that you wanted to put all those systems in place? And
No, she was old school. She just wanted to sell food, man.
Yeah.
She just wanted some income to serve on the floor and everything to run itself. And it's like, and that would have been fine if we would have stayed where, as far as the numbers, and I don't know what those numbers look like in the beginning. Were like $30K a month, maybe a little bit less, $25K. That'd been fine for that. Me wanting the opportunity and kind of being like really hungry for this, like, all right, this is working. And I didn't know this was going to work, but it was working really well.
This restaurant was
This
doing
restaurant,
really well.
yeah.
When your mom was involved with it.
Yeah.
So before we get into like
Sure.
how you start getting more involved, what made this a good location? Why did you know this was a good opportunity for
It's a
your mom?
shitty location.
Okay. but I mean, it seems to be doing well.
It is. The things that I did differently was what I learned in the app world and especially the marketing world. I started looking into what branding was and what that looks like and how consumers are driven by brands and how we're so familiar with brands, and so that's where it started with Acorn Grill, was with the brand first, with the logo design, the name,
But
all of
you
it.
didn't have the brand until after you had the space, right?
No, I knew the space was coming available for 3 months.
So the space came first, then the brand came.
I didn't have the space secured yet. I just knew it was coming available.
So I'm curious, before we talk about the brand,
Sure.
what was it about the space that was a good move in your mind? Like, why are you saying this is a good opportunity?
It was cheap.
Cheap.
Yeah.
Can you share numbers?
And actually, it was the original tenants were only spending $500 a month here.
Okay.
And I even raised it to like $100 because I knew we were going to be doing some other things. So I said, I'll give you $600 a month.
Okay.
And this was all verbal in the beginning. Like, okay, yeah, come in and do it.
So your rent $600 a month.
Yeah.
Was the kitchen fully?
No, there was nothing in there.
They
even took that. No, the last tenants that were here, they took the lights out. There wasn't even any
So
lights.
it was gutted. So it wasn't turnkey. I was curious about that.
Hell no.
But it was just low overhead, low liabilities. What else? But what about construction?
Yeah, I did all that, man.
Okay.
Like the only thing that was really here was a couple walls were still here, and the actual outside.
How much work would you say you put into the space as far as bringing it to where it was when your mom came on board? To get open.
Man, the equity. Well, put it this way: the neighbors that would see me thought I was living over here, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I was here day and night, man.
Yeah.
I didn't stop.
So, how long did it take you to get from I'm going to pay you $600 a month, the space is mine, to where you could open it?
So I put the first screws in like July, the middle of July, and then we officially opened 2017, and then we officially opened the end of November 2017.
Okay.
So 5 months.
Okay. How much of your own money did you need to put into this? How were you getting the equipment? Were you like, take us through that?
Sure.
Paint that picture of what Scrappy looks like.
So, credit card. I had a few credit cards. Excuse me. I had a few credit cards that I overdrew. Bank account overdrawn. Like I almost lost the house, man, because I put everything I had.
Yeah.
Anything that was coming in from the app world was coming into this. The other partners put in a little bit. We took out a small loan from a family member.
How many partners total?
There was 3 in the beginning.
Okay.
So I brought my little brother on board too,
Yeah.
because he worked in the restaurant industry, and I wanted him, and he was only like part time, kind of, worked, just a dishwasher, was still, relatively young. And I was like, all right, you're jumping in on this with us. You don't have a choice.
Well, what I love about the story up to this point, and not to take you off the track of painting that picture for us, is that you are all about creating opportunity. Like this wasn't meant for you.
No.
You're doing all this for other people. And I think it's important to remind people who are listening that this wasn't your vision for yourself. This was you trying to take care of other people, which I think is just so like impressive. Like how many people are willing to put their house on the line, to max out all their credit cards, to dedicate 5 months of their life where people think they live here, and it's not even for you, it's for opportunity for others. I think that's a really interesting thing to consider. So go back to painting that picture of the work you were doing, and you kind of like what had to happen to get it open.
Sure. So we went to the bank first to like get a small, and dude, it's so crazy that a bank will loan you $80,000 for like a brand new pickup or or whatever, but to loan you $30,000 to open a restaurant or $50,000, they look at you crazy. I don't understand that at all, but whatever.
I think there's probably better odds of you using the truck to make money getting to work than actually being successful with the restaurant.
I suppose, man. I suppose, So the bank said no. So we had no choice. I had no choice. We had to bootstrap this thing, man. And what I did was I like through Facebook Marketplace, through Craigslist, just went out and like sourced all of this restaurant, bought an entire restaurant for like $9,000, man. Yeah, it was incredibly cheap. The guy just wanted out of it because he wasn't in it to run the restaurant. But anyway. Moved that whole thing, like even took like everything that was in his freezers. I'm taking that. Like we can't reuse it, but I'm still going to take it because we signed the agreement that I'm taking everything.
But you're bringing up a good point that like people, I think they need hundreds of thousands of, if not like $1 million to open a restaurant, or you just start where you can and be scrappy and constantly look and be someone's exit strategy. People get into this industry all the time. Equipment is constantly being passed around. You can get deals because people just want to rid themselves of it. They just want to put it behind them. You can get such great deals. Did you have an idea for what you wanted to serve first and then reverse engineer it? Or were you just trying to getting out there and trying to find whatever you could get your hands on and be like, oh, we have a range, we have an oven, we have a flat top now, and then kind of let that dictate your menu?
Yeah, no, I had a clear picture of what I wanted. Okay. Very, very clear.
So you knew what you wanted and you knew what you needed to get that, and
right.
you were searching for those key elements.
Yeah, and I suppose you could do it the opposite way if you wanted, but it might be a little bit tougher, and you're kind of bending to other people's. You know, I think you need that. With creating opportunity, you need to have that clear picture of what it is you actually want. Man.
So 3 partners, your brother kind of got pulled into it. Your mom seems like she kind of got pulled into it. Did she want it?
This was her thing. Yeah.
Okay. So was this her vision?
Yeah, it was, man.
Okay.
And like the food that we're doing, like now, it was her thing.
Did she come to you, or did you go to her?
I told her about this opportunity.
Yeah. She wanted it.
Yeah, and because we'd been discussing opportunities like this before.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just like just me popping in and saying, hey, here's this thing. It was an ongoing conversation with her, and me telling her, you need to do your own thing. You need to do your own thing.
Yeah.
And
so was she here with you the 5 months, like pulling up nails and moving stuff in?
Some, man. I don't want to discredit any of that. Some. She was still working. And plus, like, it wasn't for her to be here. That wasn't. It was for her to like run the restaurant. Not so much the other part of it. That let the sons do that. Which my little brother was still working too. So I was the only one that could like turn everything off and like come and just like obsess and consume myself with this thing.
That makes sense. So we talked a little bit about the importance of your brand, starting small, scrappy, low, small liability. So what are the other elements up to this point that are worth bringing to the conversation? I want to dissect branding a little bit more, but I want to see if there's anything else that we should know about.
It would have been so nice to have $1 million, 500,000, but I would have failed. If I would have had that kind of cash, I would have failed because I would have overspent. I didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, like I knew what I wanted. I had the vision. I knew how to run a restaurant, but I didn't know how to build one. That's a different thing, man. Building those systems out, managing those. What do those systems look like for people?
Where did you go to learn all this in the beginning, 2017?
Books.
Yeah. What were the biggest books that, reflecting back, were the most impactful and helpful?
It's kind of cliche a little bit. One of them, and I kind of took this, I think I kind of went a little too far with it, was Be Obsessed or Be Average, like by Grant Cardone, whether you love or hate.
The 10X.
He's very aggressive, man. And I am too, so I think that's why I kind of gravitated.
Well, I think he repeats a lot of like the whole like think or grow rich mentality of like this, like write down what you want, read it every morning, and don't do anything that isn't getting you closer to that.
Right.
And put it, and it's literally it's just about showing up. So if you show up 10 times more, you should get there 10 times faster.
And it does work.
It's what you put in, you get out. So just double down, right? It's kind of the mentality. So that was a big book on just mindset.
Sure.
But what about on how to open a restaurant?
None, man. There's not a whole lot because there's a couple of them out there that I've tried to listen to or read. I do Audible. At this point.
I love Audible.
Yeah, I know. But none of them that were really restaurant specific, man. And that was kind of, I seen that, and I guess because it's just boring to put it on paper. I mean, who wants to know about the accounting and read about the accounting? Like, that sucks, man.
So how did you know what to do?
So one of the first things that we did, resources, was we reached out to a local state-funded, kind of incubator-style deal called the Indiana Small Business Development Center, ISBDC.
Okay.
We reached out to their office, or I did, and their director came in, and like she even served like the first day, and like I remember her, she was like not taking bets, but she was like, "You can't open on the 27th. You don't have your menus done." I'm like, "I'll get them done." So I was up here all night, like printing the menus the day before we opened, man. It was just
That's funny.
but yeah, she came in and served, man. But she gave me some insights and tips, and things like, all right, you want your flow to be a little bit more this way. Have you thought about how you're going to run team members? How are you going to train? She was like, get all these training programs. I'm like, training programs? I just have to open. We're gonna be bankrupt by tomorrow.
Yeah, we need a cash flow.
yeah, we need the cash flow, man.
So the one thing we haven't talked about that I want to before we move forward is branding. What was the brand you were going for? Take us through that process of developing this brand.
Sure. So because of I look at it, when it comes to anything like this, marketing or branding, as myself being the consumer first. I can't create anything. If I'm not going to buy it, if I'm not going to love it,
Yeah.
So I have to be sold on it before I can even start building it out, whatever it is.
So what was that like? If this is meant for your mom, it's your mom's vision, right? How did you develop? Was it her idea, the brand?
No, I knew that she wanted to do like this whole comfort food thing.
Yeah.
So with that, and looking at our existing market here around us, or what we have, what works and what's missing, and I seen some comfort food missing. A lot of it was pizza. These fast food.
Yeah, subs, pizzas.
Right.
Stuff like that.
So I seen this thing missing. Nostalgia was a big thing back then. People were really reminiscing on different. Things that trying to get America great again. That whole thing was going around.
Yeah.
But so I was trying to capitalize on that. So I was thinking American.
Yeah.
I wanted something very American, very apparent, and maybe some of my background with Applebee's, too, maybe came into play a little bit of that. So doing studies on companies and how they come up with their logo, with their brand name, I knew I wanted to start with an A. I knew it had to be very American, some names that we knew. And that's when the Acorn Grill came about, because Indiana corn plus it's A, and then Acorn's a household name.
Yeah, and I think just acorns in general are very those come from acorns come from
oak trees.
Oak trees, yeah. It's a very American feel.
Oak trees are the national tree. The oak tree is a national tree of America, dude.
Yeah,
and there's a spiritual element with the acorn too, man.
Yeah.
If you really get in deep with it, man, because it comes from this little bitty seed and it grows this giant tree. This whole thing.
Yeah. So I think most people can relate. Like they can see an acorn, like they're familiar with it. They've stepped in one, they've blown into the head, like the little cap, and made the whistle with an acorn. It's something that it's a common ground almost, like everybody can identify with an acorn. That's interesting. What else about branding?
Your colors.
What colors do you guys go with?
It's a hue of red, a shade of brown, and a shade of green. Which I don't use the green. The green's just kind of this really subtle color, because then it starts looking like Christmas a little bit if I use too much of it.
Yeah. So brown and red. What do those colors mean? Why those colors?
Well, that came from looking into what worked with the restaurant industry, the red and the green. The brown was kind of just this neutral tone that this secondary tone. So
you're looking at other brands. I mean, isn't that Applebee's brand, like those colors?
It is a little bit, man.
Yeah.
But I threw the orange in there too. I haven't, I left that out. But I threw their oranges in there a little bit. But it is a little bit of the Applebee's. But there's also others. And I was looking at that like, man, am I getting too close to this? Because I don't want to be them.
Yeah.
That's not the idea.
But I mean, it kind of reminds me of the whole what Lowe's did. Right. I mean, Lowe's and Home Depot don't have the same brand. They don't look the same, but they did just copy Home Depot when it came down to location.
Right.
So look at other successful brands.
Absolutely.
And pull elements of them. Like every artist is a thief. What's that?
It kind of is, man.
Yeah, but like take elements of something and then tweak it to make it your own.
Yeah, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, man.
Yeah.
You know, you just need to be like a little bit better than the other one. You know, honestly, man, and separate yourself. I mean, you see this with like Burger King and McDonald's. You know, they've got this constant fight. You know, and Burger King's what, orange and something, and McDonald's has the red and yellow, maybe.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're open at this point. Up to this point, reflecting back at
Sure.
what it took to get open. What's the one thing or two things you wish you had known now, then?
I don't know if it, because I think if I would have known these things, like I probably wouldn't even have done it, you know? So I'm glad I didn't know them.
Yeah.
But that's how incredibly difficult it was actually going to be, especially if you were going to be, you know, focused on growth.
What are some of the things you know now that you could have done different that would have been better then?
Oh man, like if I could, like, you know, and you know, if I could just close, you know, like free myself from the day to day here for like 2 to 4 weeks, what would I do? And that's like building out training systems, man, and building out those clear systems on like what I want managers, what I expect managers to do to get down to, you know, to the.
When did it take you to actually do that?
Oh man, it was like 2 years to just get started on that, man, or a year and a half.
Yeah.
You know?
So if you would have done anything differently, you would have had these systems ready from day one.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm going to push back a little bit. You didn't have vision of what you needed then.
No.
So it's hard to create those systems if you don't know what the end product looks like. If you have a bunch of experience, if you worked at other places, you have aiming points. But you had your Applebee's, but you can't necessarily recreate everything you learned at Applebee's. You don't have the same wallet,
and nor did we
know?
want to. Yeah.
So I mean, I think a lot of people they are afraid to start because of what you're saying, because they want to have all these things in place.
Just get started, man.
Yeah, just start, and then but you know, do that 12-hour shift, that 14-hour shift, if it means staying an extra 2 hours to work on. You might not have any, you might be on fumes,
dude.
But like if you block off that time, your life is gonna start getting easier. Things like block the time to work on your business.
I will say, dude, like, and even if I say this out loud, like there's gonna be so many people like, there's no way that's impossible, you know, because I wouldn't have thought that it was. I pushed what a human person can do in that time, and like, you know, when I say 120, 130 hours a week, that's legit, man. That was like. Week, that was every week, dude.
Yeah. How long?
For like the first year and a half, 2 years, dude. Like it almost killed me, man.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, you wouldn't, because there are only 168 hours in a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know this? You know, because you put in a shit ton of hours trying to get, you know, squeeze everything out of it you could, man. But you know, that's what it took, man. But you wouldn't think that what you can. It's so crazy how much a human person can do, man. If they really have that drive, man. If they really have that want and that vision, and that, you know, and when there's no other opportunity out there, you know, because you've tried opening every other door, and so this is your only thing, man.
Yeah, you're all in.
Yeah.
So it sounded like at one point you were looking at this, and you're like, wow, this is working. This is successful. This is gonna work.
Yeah.
You know, money started coming in. Paint the picture of how long it took you just to kind of recognize that there was something here.
So like the first 30 days, man, I realized like, all right, this thing's bigger than us.
Yeah.
Like, and it was, and I think it really went down to the branding, like having a clear brand before, or at least, you know, developing that clear brand.
What was the message of your brand? I mean, you painted the picture.
Sure.
Of what the brand looks like, but what was the message?
The message was, man, that and I think this was also a big part of it, and it still is a big part of our marketing. It's like, I give a shit, man. Yeah. I care about the food that we're serving. Like, we're not doing the box stuff, man. Like in the beginning, we were like baking our own buns, dude, and cutting those. Like all, you know, making our own apps. We still do the making our own apps. I started buying buns because it was like, this is stupid.
Make your own what?
Apps. So like
appetizers.
Appetizers.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Are we talking about the other apps that you were working on before?
No. Yes. Or we call them, you know. But anyway, you know, our mozzarella sticks, we hand bread those, man. You know, our fried pickles, we hand bread those, dude. It's this whole process that kind of.
What about what to charge? Like, how did you know how to make this profitable? How did you know what to charge to have the margins you needed?
Sure. So because of my, you know, a little bit of travel and like being away from this country area where a lot of people really haven't been away too much, I knew that there was money out there, and I knew that that people would pay this, you know. But I've seen in these local like mom and pop diners around here, you know, and no offense to that, you know, but they're charging the least amount that they possibly can because of whatever reason. And it's like, look, I'm not getting into this not to make money. Yeah. Like I know what it looks like not to have this, so let's do our best.
You know, until recently, I would say until like 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe even 8 years ago, people figured out their prices by looking at what every other restaurant
hell
is
no.
doing and going, we'll do 25% or 20 cents less or like a quarter less because we want to perceive greater value, right? That is the absolute wrong way to do things. What does it take you to get your return on investment?
Sure.
Reverse engineer it, do the menu engineering, and then whatever that number is that gets spit out at the end is what you charge, right?
Sure.
Is that what you guys did from day one?
No, not
What'd you
even
do?
that, man. I looked at what the dishes that we were creating, or on our menu, and I looked at like, all right, what would I pay for it? First off, what would I feel about this being a value?
Yeah.
Asked a couple other people like, what would you pay for this? Just have them write down a number, and compared those, and then looked at like, all right, how much is the recipe? How much is this actually going to cost us? All right, now what does this margin look like? And some of the things were in like 15% range of like, margin. I'm like, all right, cool. Run with it. Don't get this down to 30. I've got a high margin item. Like keep it on there.
Yeah.
It's going to sell, if it sells, cool.
Yeah. So your mom's not here now.
No.
At what point did your mom and your brother leave the partnership? And was this partnership on paper or was it just word or like?
It was on paper, but there was no clear, and that's one of the main things I did wrong in the beginning, man. And I didn't know. There was no, because I thought family, it'll be cool.
Yeah.
We'll all work it out, know.
You can't trust your family, right?
Yeah. And like I had even kind of planned for this, like what happens if this hits $1 million a year? I'd started looking at like what that looks like for us, but not with the partners, not internally. I thought we'd all work this out together, and we had a clear like how percentage of partnership owned, But as far as roles or duties, we didn't have that, man. It was like everybody's hands on, everybody's doing everything. And
was that good?
No, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Man.
So how long were you working in this scenario where it was like undefined?
Sure. My first, my mom, when she left, it was like, we were like 10, 11 months into it, I think it was.
So 2008?
2018.
18.
Yeah.
What happened there? I mean, I know this is family. I know if
sure.
This is a public podcast. I don't want to lift up your skirt too high.
If anybody can learn anything from this, man, I think it's worth me kind of, airing out my dirty laundry a little bit, because we all have these skeletons, man. I mean, let's just get real with each other. If we don't have these real conversations, then who's going to really learn, man?
You understand it.
Or even me. What can I learn from me?
Yeah. So bring us to it.
So without having these clear partnerships, somebody else kind of migrated in, like this dude and this, this ex for my mom, because now she's got this little bit of success, like it's looking good for her because we were growing fast.
Yeah.
And I was getting a lot of heat from my partners. Like they were like, we just want to cook. I'm like, we got to grow. We're going to get swallowed up here. If we don't keep bringing people in and growing this brand and get to another level, they're going to swallow us up. Somebody's going to come along and be better than us with more money and take us out because we're just an independent,
Yeah.
So with that, growth mindset that I had and all those hours I was putting in, I was able to do quite a bit in a short period of time. So this place started really popping and working. And another dude came in, boyfriend, ex, whatever, and I wasn't feeling it. He was trying to elbow up to my tables that I built myself, like the original tables. I went in my garage and hand planed these tables, took pallets out. My original tables cost me like $12 a piece to do, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no way, man. And he's trying to tell people like how, people how to do their jobs here and like barking at people. And it's like, get the fuck out, man.
Yeah.
So that's what I told my mom. I was like, cause I threw him out and I told my mom, I was like, look, it's him or you.
Yeah.
You got to, the company, you got to make up your mind. And she chose him.
Yeah.
And I said, peace.
She's still with him?
Yeah, barely.
Man.
No, it's not good, man.
Well,
I don't mean it's my mom, dude. I love her. It's one of those sucky things. Like you want to like kind of smile and like be like, all right, yeah, I told you so.
Well, I mean,
but it's still my mom.
What's the lesson here, though? What can we distill from this? I mean, it's like almost
patience and persistence, man.
Persistence,
yeah, dude.
But it's ironic because it's weird because like, what was it about the scenario? Like, because you built this whole thing for your mom. Did you know? Did you have a gut feeling that like he would have just drove it to the ground and it wouldn't have worked?
Yeah.
And you didn't want that to happen for your mom?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's still here today. That's why I'm still going. I mean, there's two reasons why I stayed going after that. Yeah. One is because like our team members, some of them, you know, they're still with us to this day, you know, from the very beginning, like put their hope and trust in me that I was going to create a job for them, you know, and I was going to create, you know, security for them. And for me just to bow out and say, all right, well, we're just going to shut it down, you know, like that's not acceptable. That's failure, man. Yeah. I've got to keep trying.
So what about your brother?
So after about 6 months, I think after she left, man, you know, business kept going, you know, kept exploding, man. And, you know, end over end, you know, each month was higher better than the next kind of thing. And we had grown really rapidly, really short between her leaving and whenever he left, the 1st of February of 2019. And, we had a bad night, man. Bad Saturday night kind of deal, and you know, just shit didn't work out. We were too busy. We weren't prepared for it, and he just kind of looked at me and he's like, "Dude, I'm done. Yeah, I'm tired of working."
It was never his thing, though.
It was never his thing, man.
Yeah, he didn't want it.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a lesson. Like, don't go into business. Don't have partners who don't want it, because you got to want it. I think, you know, your mom wanted it. You wanted it. Your mom and you didn't want the same thing, which sounds really, you know, obvious. But on paper, if this was for your mom, like, was there equity? Like, how did you guys, like, did you own the whole thing? Were you gonna
at that time I did. Okay. Yeah. After they left, like it was, I told them, I said, you know, whatever. I don't, you know, because sometimes with being scrappy, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. And especially if you know that you're, I don't know how we know if we know we're right, but I knew that I was right. Mm-hmm. You know, I knew I was doing the right thing. Yeah. And so basically I just took her off, you know, because I was president, I could do that. The other partner agreed to it. At that time, my little brother was still partner. And we just said peace. Yeah. And, you know, and we did still pay her. And so I don't want to sound like I'm, you know, a really big asshole, you know, because I can be, but, you know, I still paid her $300 a week, every week. Like that check was wrote every single week, because that's why we did this. Mm-hmm. I didn't care where she was at or what, you know, I cared what she was at, but what that situation looked like and how much bitterness and, you know.
It was security for your mom. She's still getting
it was, man.
She's still getting security.
Was. And that story's starting to come back around in the better side now, finally, after all this time, you know, after 2 years or whatever.
So, timeline 2018 now-ish, going into 2019, reflecting back on where you were then. And one of the things I love about you, talking with you, you're such an active part of the Restaurant Unstoppable Network community, is you're constantly tweaking, you're insatiable. Yeah. You know, like it's always going to be better. So take us through the evolution of Acorn Grill, and talk about like profitability then, profitability now, the key elements you made in this 4-year evolution that have had the biggest impact.
So yeah, insatiable was the right word, man. I think that goes back to like the drug addiction days. Like it's part of my addiction. It's my addictive behavior. Like it's all or nothing for me. But why I love this business is because it's ever changing. The challenge, man. I embrace these challenges, especially looking back where I started, man, and like the challenge and the, you know, what led to this. It's like so amazing. And now I'm chasing these new challenges today. Like, see what can we overcome? Like, what can we find that needs to be improved upon? But so. Where did, you know, I met, you know, a little plug here for another, you know, Ryan Knoepfle, the restaurant boss, you know, I kind of, you know, talked about him on the
past guest in the show.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Awesome dude, man. I mean, and he's the one that taught me like menu engineering, like through his YouTube videos. I can't say he taught me, like his YouTube videos taught me. Like I was starting to just consume his content, because back to the book thing, there wasn't any book. So I was looking for other content, other resources for content. And that's how I discovered the YouTube with, you know, the restaurant boss, you know, and what he was putting out there was like cost of goods, stuff that I'd never really even looked at or thought about, you know, or terms I'd never even heard, you know, what the hell's a prime cost? I didn't know what that was, you know, a couple years ago, man. Yeah. And now it's like my most important number I look at every day. So he was one of the first, you know, like resources that I was using looking into these things. And then I found the Restaurant Unstoppable podcast, always in my car, listening. Anytime I had earbuds in, like working here, I was listening to all that content, man, just absorbing myself, obsessing over this, you know, immersing myself in this world of restaurants.
When did you discover the podcast?
Man, it was 2018.
Yeah.
And why it was, because things were starting to, I had most of the stuff built out. I was still like always fixing stuff, man, and still
Was your
working.
mom still on scene when you were listening to the podcast?
Yeah.
So I'm curious.
Which made it even worse for that dynamic, because she's wanting to just sell food and I'm wanting to build these systems better, you know?
Well, I think that's, not to toot my own horn, but I think that's the significance of a podcast. Not just my podcast,
Right.
but any podcast with this format of finding successful people and just saying, how did you do it? Where did you fuck up? What would you have done differently? And you're hearing, you know what's right because you've heard it at least probably 100 times before you and your mom split, because you've heard so many other stories and you have reference points. And I think that's just understanding, just getting that perspective is so huge. And you knew that. So, I mean, how did you think, not to put words into your mouth, but how was that influencing you at this time?
So success leaves clues, you know,
Yeah.
and so does failure. So if I can listen to somebody's story or read a book, you know, and I can pick up things that they've done right and things won't that accelerate my growth faster or get me to where I'm trying to go faster, even if I don't know, even if that's not a clear roadmap, you know? So I guess, I mean, does that answer your question? Is that what?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we talked about Ryan Grompin, his videos. We'll be sure to give him some love in the show notes. Prime cost, cost of goods sold, and just really getting it down to a science, down to like knowing where every penny is. Surrounding yourself with greatness, listening to other podcasts. What else? So maybe specifically, what was happening in the business from the lessons you were picking up on, and how did the margins, what were the things you were changing about your business that were impacting the business? Well,
I think first off, you know, I was focused on building a better team, bringing in the right people, because I had all this churn, man, in the beginning. Like there was so much chaos, you know, and so many things just, you know, things wouldn't get done, and I'd be just so frustrated because, like, why didn't they get done? Well, they didn't know they were supposed to get done. Like they didn't have this clear direction or path on what their job role was. I would just say, come on board, you know,
like this is the job.
This is the job. You're just going to work here. Like I don't know what you're going to do here, but you're just going to work here.
So now, what does it look like? Somebody gets, like, what's the act from putting in a resume to being onboarded to, like, what's that look like? How's that evolved?
So it hasn't evolved to where I want it to be yet, but it's a lot better and a lot closer. So you only apply for FOH or BOH positions, and then when I get you in here for the, you know, and we do this all through texting now and everything else. I got this really cool system.
Is there a name of a system you're using?
Hire Me.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Actually, it was recommended from 7 Shifts, so I think it's a show sponsor, man, and they kind of brought me into Hire Me, man. Yeah. I love this thing, dude. But anyway. So when I bring the team member in, or potential team member, you know, through the interview process, I ask them, like, what role would you like? Yeah. Where do you see yourself as a fit here? And, you know, I kind of just go from there, man. And as far as a host, there's a clear role for a host now. I you know, they know what is expected of us. Yeah. You know. And same thing with the line cook. They know what they're expected to do.
So how do they know what they're expected to do?
So first, it's in the job description. Then second, it's communicated with them in their interview and onboarding. You know, through the walkthrough and everything else. Yeah. And, you know, I always kind of throw in there, like, there's a lot more that needs to be done here. So, you know, feel free to to go out of your way, because there's opportunity that you could create here for yourself. Yeah.
So before Hire Me, did you get it someplace that was kind of in the medium from having nothing to having something, but wasn't quite Hire Me yet?
No, it was just kind of, you know, applications and then doing Facebook job posts.
What about the tools and services within the business to help and support your team? What about checklists? What about
So Ryan's the first person to checklist. Okay. You know, so started developing this checklist out. That was really that was a game changer, man. Mm-hmm. Something as simple as checklist.
When did you implement that?
Man, it had to have been around 2019 or, you know, end of 2018.
Okay. And what were the most important? Like, how many checklists were there, and how did you know what checklist to create?
So in the beginning, I think back of the house was my main checklist that I focused on because that was where I was having the most trouble. I was spending the most time because I had to prioritize. Where am I spending, because checklists, as easy as they sound to create, can get kind of difficult and daunting, especially if you're a perfectionist and a control freak.
Yeah.
How much do you put on there? How much do you, take off? How much do you assume a team member knows or, not, I guess.
Okay. So you're kind of just filling in the blanks as you go. Like
right.
you have a rendition. If things are getting missed, that's your cue to fix it.
Right.
Right. And just constant little tweaks from there on.
Yeah. And at that time, it was awesome. Sorry for interrupting, man. It was awesome because we had so much churn that even if I got something wrong with this team member, like in a month, it was going to be a new one doing it. So it didn't really matter that much.
Yeah. So you could run it through, get a new, that didn't work. Let's see how we can change it for the next time around. One thing you've talked to me about, you've been very open and public about this, with some of the your personal challenges is you say you struggle with not social intelligence, but like emotional intelligence, or maybe not struggle, but you're a socially intelligent person, but you get angry and you can kind of be off-putting sometimes.
Oh yeah, I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how have you worked on that over time?
Well, first I'm supposed to stop saying I'm an asshole because words have power,
Yeah, and you're gonna believe it.
Right. Yeah. And I've got this whole like personal coach thing.
I don't think you're an asshole for the record.
I'm not. I'm really not, man. I'm really but I'm so obsessed with what I'm doing, and I see the bigger picture, and I see the value in this, like not just for myself. I mean, and that's kind of part of like why I think I'm an asshole because I always put myself second. Mm-hmm. Even when doing this, I put myself second. And so that's how I'm kind of overcoming that is like, all right, me first, not to be self-absorbed, not to be like, arrogant or anything, but I have to be good. If I'm not good, then I'm going to be an asshole and nobody else is going to be good. Yeah. And that's where like I seen the value and how important it was to build better systems because, and I'm stealing this from, again, the restaurant boss, and I know I'm, shouting out to him like huge right now because that's where like things started really pivoting for me, man. But one of the things that he taught me and I heard, from him was don't manage the people, manage the systems. Let the systems manage the people. Yes. Because when you start trying to manage people, you're going to get, people are people. We're human. We make mistakes, man.
You don't want people-dependent operations. You want system-dependent operations.
Absolutely.
And then you plug good people into those systems.
Right.
Absolutely. And when you're creating these systems, you're removing that responsibility. You're taking that off of your shoulders, which is going to be better for your mental health. It's going to be less for you to focus on. And it seems like a lot of work. It seems like rigidity. It seems like a horrible place to live. But once you can create those systems and you develop habits, and that's really what you're doing with these checklists is you're just creating habits in people. Before long, they still have to verify the checklist, but they know exactly what to do. And it doesn't take long to get to that point where they're just like, I know exactly what to do. I'm going to do it. And then I'm just going to verify. Right. And then you check and it's accountability more than anything because then you got to initial your name next to all the items that you're responsible for. And then there's somebody else that's going to say, I'm going to go through to make sure that the things that you said you did are actually done. Right. But you're not like, I think when people think of checklists, they think it's so rigid and like, I can't make a decision without going to an action item first. It's just to maintain standard and to give direction for especially new people. What's going through your mind as I'm saying this? Yeah, and that's, they are kind of structured, and it seems really mundane. And that's where I was like really against them, because it was like I'm taking away from people's element of being people. What makes us us is the charm, the fact that we are a small town. Right. Yeah. Right. But it gave them the clarity, I think, and the ability and confidence. And so that we didn't forget, because whenever, shit's hitting the fan here and we're in the middle of a rush and it's dead sprinting, if we forgot to do our checklist, we're going to know it. And it's going to make that so much worse, man. Yeah. So, and it curbed a lot of the chaos, and it curbed a lot of me going through and asking, why didn't this get done? Why didn't this get done? And now I'm stressed out even farther, Yeah. Are you still growing from back in 2018 as far as your numbers go? Yeah. And at what clip? It's year over year, man. Since we first started, it's been like averaging a little over 25%, like even during COVID. So what's on the horizon for you? Or is there anything else we haven't discussed up to this point as far as transformative decisions, moves you made, things you've implemented that have just been game changers?
Yeah, quite a few. I mean, our point of sale system is like crucial for me. Like, I think if I had to take two things with me, if I had to get rid of all the other systems, everything else, I would even get rid of the checklist before I got rid of my point of sale system, man. And it was Toast. I think he's been a supporter of, and that's actually kind of where I found Toast was through, the network. And then my label printing system, because my handwriting sucks. Right? Yeah, I use the Daymark system, man. But so those. I think it's just clear systems, man.
Yeah, I know you were dabbling with Jolt.
Yeah.
You
not for me, man.
Yeah.
But my system sucked before I did with Jolt, and I was trying to hope Jolt would fix my system. So I kind of,
Yeah. What was it about Jolt that didn't work for you?
The fact that it was there's some things that I think, at least for me, there's some things that can live on tablets and we can have the tablets to do these things.
Yeah.
Checklist, I don't think are one of those, at least not yet. I mean, and even if team members have their own devices and they're using their own devices, I think there's just too many rooms for distractions and things like that, or too many rooms for like, is somebody watching you do this checklist, or are you actually on your phone, doing something? Like, how do I know? Even if it comes to me, it dings to me and I check that you did it. It's that physical piece of paper with the clipboard, walking around the restaurant doing it. I think there's some power there, man.
Yeah, I feel that. Anything we have not discussed up to this point that you're just like, I really wanted to talk about this?
Well, so some of what we do, so if corporate restaurants, the things that they do well, we suck at, or we're getting better at, because like you mentioned, like, it's so important for independents or small businesses to model yourself as best you can after these corporates. So we're getting better at that. But the things that like the corporates suck at, and that's like having a soul, and being real, we're fantastic at. I mean, I'm really big on this team building stuff. I mean, everybody's a team here. If somebody's in the weeds, like, somebody better help them out, man. Like, I will stop my truck and do what, answer a phone call, whatever I have to do to ease that person's load, that's really, important. And about 2 years ago, whenever I was really starting to look into like, all right, I need better people. I need to find better people. So I started like creating, working on this, like attracting. Instead of, you get back to that push-pull marketing, I wanted to attract people to me. And in order to attract people to me, I had to be a pleasing personality or whatever. I had to be a nice dude. Yeah. I couldn't be known as this, asshole. Yeah. And so I started, reading, doing exactly what I was doing before, reading books on this, like building better habits around this, and like being really cognitive around this, thoughtful around my attitude. So I gave this offer, and it still really stands to this day. I just don't announce it as much. If anybody can outwork me, or at least come close to it, you can have the keys to the business. Yeah. Like, you deserve to be a partner here. Yeah. And that's what, I mentioned Jose, in the beginning of this. Like, that was Jose, dude. Like,
when did Jose? I'm happy you brought. I wanted to bring him back into it. When did he come on board?
So it was January 1st, 2019. We had this huge crash. My last my other partner just left, and I'm like sitting there contemplating, should I even keep this place open? We were hitting stellar numbers, man. And it was just overwhelming, man. And he said, let's keep grinding. Because I looked at him, I was like, what do we do, man? Like, you put your hope in me. You left this other job for this. What do you do? What do we do? And he's like, let's go. And I said, if you're willing to go, I'm willing to go, man. I've been through way worse than this so far, so whatever. And, so I worked side by side with this dude, man, like day and night, man. And
how did he compliment you? What assets did he bring to the table that you were missing?
So we're like, the ungay married dudes, you know what I mean? Kind of,
life partner.
We're like, a little bit, man.
But that is what your business partner is. And I don't, and that's something that comes up a lot on the show is like, you are going, a marriage is a legal document binding you legally to this person, and you together are trying to have a better life. How is that not different from going into business?
It's absolutely not, man.
Yeah. Like, it is a marriage, and ideally a lifelong marriage if you do everything right. Unless you're just trying to build something to sell it, but ultimately you need a partnership. So where's the symbionts? What's the word I'm looking for? Symbiotic. Is there a short word of saying? How do you guys complement each other?
Sure. So he's a hard worker like I am.
Yeah.
So we've got that. He's not quite as focused on systems. He believes in them, you know, and I'm selling them to him. I'm like, all right, we need to get this system in place, you know. But he's not so obsessed with the perfectionism, and that's where we complement each other. We're both hard workers, but he is like, all right, you know, it's still human. Like, being wrong is okay. We can move away from that. And I'm like, let's get it right the first time, man. Let's spend all this time, you know, making sure that we're ready to go on that, you know. But with him, man, I mean, like working here for, it's been 2 years, a little over 2 years now. You know, I knew about 6 months after Jose was here, if I didn't make him my partner, he was going to be my competition, or at least leave and open up his own store.
Before we get into what that partnership looks like, I meant to ask and I didn't. You said that you changed because you were reading these books about how to attract onto yourself people by being different and by putting out better energy. What books specifically can we reference, or you know, what books served you?
Probably my Bible with this, man, is, and it's very cliche, man, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's very, you know, it's cliche, I know, but it works.
There's a reason why it echoes.
Right.
You know, it's powerful stuff, and it's just very simple. How you treat people is
right, for sure,
what you get back.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And a lot of Jim Rohn stuff, man. Jim Rohn, you know, great storyteller, man. And I know, you know, these are all like really cliche, like entrepreneurial things, but like you said, they do work, man. So why not drop them, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for getting into that. Okay, so you said that if you didn't offer partnership to Jose, he was going to become your competitor.
Sure.
How do you approach writing down and getting things, like, how are you doing this partnership differently than your previous partnership? Because this isn't family anymore. This is
right. This is real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, why didn't the family come back and sue me? Like, there was always that, like, you know, and, you know, and I just like, you know, it's whatever. You can come back, you can take it all, because I started with nothing. I'll redo it, man. Yeah. I'm good with that. If you guys want this, come get it. Yeah. You know, you're going to fight me for it. Believe me. But, you know, which, like I said, things, you know, I started kind of saying things are getting better now. Good. But, how are things, you know, our roles are more clearly defined. You know, and what does this look like if this happens? What does this look like, you know, if that happens? But I think it's just really like our roles are defined on what we're doing here, and our roles are defined on like our goals are defined on where our roles go.
What are your roles versus his roles?
So his roles at the moment, until we evolve past this, you know, and it'll always be this, I think, is operations, is more the day to day. Like watch this baby while I go work on this, you know. And I hate to make it sound like a husband and wife where we got this child, but it kind of is,
but
man.
he's focused on maintaining operations. You're focused on creating new opportunities.
Right.
What are the new opportunities you're focused on?
So we more of our market. I mean, you know,
marketing,
branding systems, you know, we just built out this plan, a purchase agreement was just signed for our entire property. I'm putting together the pieces to build something really epic here in our small community, you know, and it's going to cost a buttload of money, and it's going to take a buttload of time, man. But I think it's well worth it, and that's where my focus has to be
on executing the scale.
On executing to scale, because you know, how are we going to get more if we just keep, you know?
What about? I know you're really big into looking for and implementing technology. I know.
Oh yeah.
Ovation, a recent guest on the show, has been something that you've been really excited about. How is that helping you with creating a brand awareness and scaling the brand?
So Ovation, not so much on the brand awareness. Well, I guess it does secondhand. Firsthand, it gives me the feedback on what we're actually doing. People are more apt to, they've been using this like crazy, man. It's almost drove me.
What is it? Let's zoom to 30,000 feet. Like, what is Ovation?
So Ovation is a tool that allows restaurants to receive feedback from their guests through, you know, that you can scan a QR code that sends you a text message depending on how your POS is linked up. It'll send, like ours will send them an automatic text message 30 minutes after they eat here, and ask them first if they want to sign up to be if we can text mess market them, which is, you know, a whole nother area of this, but that they can give us feedback, real feedback of how their order was, without me going out there and asking, how was your food? Being a small town, I know half the people they're in here. Yeah. Are they going to give me real feedback? Mm-hmm. Sometimes not, man. Yeah. You know, so it enables that, because I want to hear this feedback. I want to know how we can improve. And then if they give us positive feedback, or I have a chance to win them back, but it links to like a Google My Business for reviews, and the number of reviews we've gotten just solely from here in the last, we've only had it open for 3 days. So over the weekend, it was like we got like 10 new reviews just from them alone.
Wow. That's huge. And then it gives you the opportunity to catch people before they leave to write the end of the story, to make things right if things weren't good. Do you get notified before they leave?
Yeah, like not necessarily before they leave the store,
but immediately afterwards. Yeah, and I can give them I can link up, promos like 20% off your next order. What's really cool though, I think with it is the template system. Like we've had these opportunities to kind of like get the feedback through text messaging, but I didn't have the templates built out. So I'm kind of in the shit and, in the weeds and my adrenaline's flowing and I'm trying to respond to, Karen, who's not happy about her food for whatever reason, whether it was our fault, it doesn't matter. So like, when giving this feedback, sometimes it wouldn't be the best way to put it. I'd get kind of, aggressive with it. And so then I wouldn't respond to their feedback. So where the templates are built out, it allows me to auto-populate this. Yeah, to silence that inner demon, that inner voice that makes you want to tear people's throats out. But the other thing you're getting too, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's text message marketing. It's SMS marketing, where you can blast. You're collecting data,
for sure,
emails and phone numbers. Correct.
Yep.
So now you have this list of emails and phone numbers, but like that, having that phone number is very powerful for just keeping the line of communication. How are you guys planning on using these phone numbers you're collecting to communicate with your guests?
Sure. Our marketing, I really don't market unless I think I can provide value to somebody, especially with text messaging, because that's incredibly personal whenever I get a message on my phone. So I guess that's kind of what my idea with using that for. And then to kind of bring in these guests for those midpoints, because our 6 o'clock is busy enough. Our noon's busy enough. What about the 2 o'clock, the 3 o'clock? What can I do to bring people in on those periods?
So incentives.
Right.
Yeah. Beautiful. Anything about Ovation that is exciting you that we haven't discussed?
No, I'm just ready to put some more time into that because we haven't even fully onboarded that yet.
So what's the future look like? You said you're looking at other locations. You're looking to create opportunities, bring in partners. Paint that picture of the future for you.
So the future, I was really wanting to like scale like multiple locations and I still do, like totally, man. But it's not going to be with this, at least not right now. This is really hard to scale, man, especially in today's market, and what's happened and everything, man. So after talking, with the restaurant coach and some consultants, and it was like, have you squeezed everything out of what you're doing? And the answer was no, man.
What do you mean squeeze everything out?
So captured as much market and as much opportunity as we can in this right here. And the answer was hell no, man. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface, man.
Yeah. So you're saying getting complete market domination before thinking about scaling?
Yeah. Maybe not, not the domination, but
own this market before you try to divide
sure
your attention to focus on other things. And you don't, and I guess what I'm hearing too is you don't want to, I remember first talking to you when I think it was when you joined the network, or we talked maybe months ago. Maybe it was even closer to like a year ago. You said something along the lines of you wanted to have like hundreds of Acorn Grills.
Yeah.
But now you're starting to think maybe this isn't the brand for that.
I think it can be done.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of the right people, and it's going to take some time, man.
Yeah. So you're focused, instead of focusing on scale, you're focusing on making this thing as amazing as it can be, so it doesn't need you to scale because it's so amazing.
This one, yeah. And that's another reason what kept me in this was the challenges, man, with getting better on managing people. Yeah. I think, or leading people.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things about you and your story is that you had to create your own opportunity. So you're good at creating opportunity, and you never really had anybody create opportunity for you.
No.
And I think what's cool about what you bring to the world is somebody who understands the significance of having opportunity, right? Yeah. And I think that's a unique selling proposition, in the sense that like you can make it all about opportunity for others. And I think if you tie that into the brand somehow, and because you are that, you are somebody who should not be here.
Right.
If you're looking at tradition, right? But you made opportunity, and you're proof of hard work and dedication and persistence in having a vision and focusing on the vision and not letting anything pull you off that vision, even family, which is hard to do. That's really hard to do. And this is why, your work ethic, your tenacity, your in a small town, Sullivan, Indiana, leveraging technology to be leaps and bounds ahead of the people in your market.
Yeah.
You know, creating opportunity, giving up
market.
equity to your future partners. All the shit, man. It's been a lot of fun making an example of you today.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Inspire, empower, transform the industry is the mission statement. How have you transformed?
Man, that's a tough question, man. That's a really, really deep question, dude. I think it's, you know, the transforming, and it's kind of like goes back to what you said, man. I really enjoy creating the opportunities for others, man. You know, the ones that are out there looking, kind of the misfits, the ones that didn't really get the, you know, those doors open for them, but still have that drive to, you know, that's how I've transformed, is to, you know, and that's been my why, man, more than anything over the last like year or two. Is like, that's what's kept me going, is like these people that have put hope into me. So I think that's where it's at. I mean, I've had several team members. It's hard for me to keep people now because they keep going off and starting their own things, man.
Yeah.
You know,
but that's good. I mean, that should be the goal, I think. And I think if once you kind of shift something in your head where you're like, my goal is to push people out because I've given them all the tools, knowledge, and I've empowered them to leave me and do their own thing. When you start thinking about that and you're trying to give people the resources they need to say, screw you, I don't need you anymore.
Right.
Then it's amazing how they don't go anywhere.
Right.
You know, they start sticking around. Right.
But don't leave me yet. Like, let me get to where I'm going, and then you can go off and do your own thing.
Right.
You know?
I've loved this conversation. We're back, and the first question I have for you is, what is your it factor? A habit, a trait, a characteristic you believe most contributes to your success?
My work ethic, man.
What is your biggest weakness?
My personality, dude.
I think it's a good personality.
It is. It's got a negative side though, man.
Okay. What would you say? Like, not an optimist, but pragmatic. Is that what you're saying?
Slightly
Okay.
pragmatic, yeah.
Is it optimism in
Pessimist?
Pessimist
yeah.
is the word I was looking for. But you don't seem pessimistic.
I'm not pessimistic. No, I don't even see negativity, man.
Okay.
Like I struggle with pessimism.
So what is it about your personality that you think is flawed?
It can be kind of abrasive, man, because I'm so obsessed with this.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. You know, it's hard for me to to relate to others because I'm so just
like who cares about what your feelings? This is the
exactly. Yeah, like, you know, I mean, you know,
insensitive.
when somebody's got a cold, I'm like, yeah, well, I had this happen and I was still here, so why weren't you at work?
Yeah,
you know what I
so
mean? It's so hard for me to like
Not
have to,
here. Yeah, it's hard for you to put other people's priorities ahead of your own.
Yeah, and like me and my wife, we have this fantastic relationship, man.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we struggle with, you know, I've gotten better at is like, she always said, can we ever have a normal conversation? I'm like, me talking about the store, what I'm doing is normal for me because that's all I live and breathe.
Yeah,
you know, besides my family, you know.
I totally get it. What is one question you ask or thing you look for during the interview process?
Their smile.
What kind of smile?
It's got to be that genuine, like, you know, they're just smiling to be smiling.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. What is your biggest challenge today?
Myself, man. My lack of skills.
How are you overcoming that?
Just continuing to just, you know, absorb anything I can, man. I mean, and being intentional with that, you know.
Share one code of conduct or behavior you teach your team. This is a core value, a way to be.
Sure. And I think, you know, we kind of strayed off from this, but it goes back from the drug addiction and all that stuff and like why the restaurant industry, because I did a lot of crazy shit while I was working, you know, and so I run a tight ship, man. I mean, you know, what you do outside of work is what you do outside of work. But as far as here, you know, I'm a role model, you know. I've got teenage, you know, girls that work up front or you know wherever, you know. I might be their only like father figure-ish person or whatever, so it's my job to protect them because I have a young daughter too, and I'd want her protected at work, you know. And this industry can be kind of brutal, man.
Yeah. Wait. So repeat. That was share one code of conduct, or so you run a tight ship.
Tight ship, man.
Meaning
it's
drug use, alcohol.
You come to fucking work drunk or high, dude. I've been in fist fights with my line cooks because they were back there high, dude.
Yeah, gotcha. What is one uncommon standard of service you teach your team? Something that's common within the Acorn Grill, but not common throughout other restaurants.
That's a great question too, man.
Thanks.
You know, you know, hospitality is so key to what we're doing here, dude. What I do, I train them on when they have time, and I try to give them time for the small talk, man. The small talk with them. I'll train them like, just pick out something on their T-shirt and just talk about it, man. Just find something and just chit chat.
Find a way
with
to
them.
connect.
Yeah. I mean, you can do that whole, the steps of service, man. Hi, have you ever been here before? And that's really cool. And I really appreciate that, and we do that here, But I think it's like making that deep, meaningful connection with that guest, even if it's for 5 seconds, man. Because when I was a server, that's what I did.
Yeah, I love it. What is one thing you feel restaurateurs don't do often enough or well enough?
I don't know. That's restaurateurs. Mom and pop's independence, and
Restaurant owner.
Yeah, restaurant owner. You know what it is, dude. I'll tell you, man. And this is coming from my own challenges, and that's putting themselves first and like making sure that they and their families are good, man. Because we consume ourselves so much with this industry.
We eat ourselves alive.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of why. Not to plug the network again, but you invested in Profit First. You're a part of that, man. Right? And just taking little things, just like making sure you're paying yourself well, making sure you're taking care of yourself first thing in the morning, making sure you're doing all these things that you need because you need to be the best version of yourself before you can show up and try to help others be the best versions of themselves. Right. How has Profit First? I was meant to bring that up to the conversation.
Sure. Game changer, dude.
Specifically how?
I think just seeing the numbers, man, and like taking it out of that big chunk that it all comes in. Like now we call that the income account, Yeah. Taking it out and like driving it down into these other budgeting accounts and like seeing where the money's actually going and like taking it,
out of sight, out of mind too.
Exactly, man.
Like profit and like tax. Like you just take that out. So money hits the income account.
Yep.
The first place it's going is you're taking your 10% and whatever you want.
Basically.
That's your profit. That pays off debt. And that goes into assets. And then tax, that's not yours. But what happens, and I'm guilty of this, you just get money coming in and you're trying to grow. Like money's going out as fast as it's coming in, and you're not allocating funds for things that aren't negotiable, like taxes.
Right.
And when you just take that money away and it's not there, you don't have it. It's out of sight, out of mind. And then when it comes time for tax season, you just go to your checking account that you isolated and put in this island account, and all of a sudden, holy shit, I have $25,000 here.
Generating interest?
You mean I have? Yeah. Well, that's for your tax, but
right.
like now, generating interest.
It still is. Yeah.
But how do you know how it's generating interest? How that works?
Well, because it's a savings account. I mean,
yeah, there's that, but also, if theoretically, as you're getting better, as you're doing more business, as you're scaling, it's going to compound because it's that 10% of $100,000 you made this year is going to be bigger than $150,000. So that's more money. And then the idea is, as you're getting all this profits used to invest in assets. Assets make you money.
Right. It's
exponential. It's amazing how it works. It's powerful stuff. Okay, not trying to sell stuff, but I know that you've used it. I was actually kind of curious too. Is that playing into your partnership with Jose?
Yeah.
How?
With the Profit First?
Yeah.
He hadn't even started on that yet. Like,
okay.
I mean, he sees it, he knows what's there, but you know what I mean.
But I think if you are looking to do profit sharing, you need to have profit.
Oh yeah.
Allocated.
Yeah. Jose's still on the salary payroll. We just did this like 2 weeks ago, so like we haven't even like really because this is gonna fuck up his taxes. Like, it's not gonna fuck him up, but it's gonna make him complicated. Which is that's what you want, man. You want complicated taxes. You want to be as simple as possible, but the more success or whatever that looks like for you, the more complicated your taxes.
Maybe that's a good conversation we could have. I could get an accountant to talk about partnerships and taxes and what that looks like and how to set yourself up for success.
Right.
And what just happened here is what the vision of the network is. Talking to people, finding out where the pain point is, and me going, who do I know who can help us with that? And bringing them in so we can learn together. What is one book that's a must read to make us a better person or restaurant operator? We already dropped a bunch today.
Right.
Grant Cardone, How to Win Friends and Influence People. What was the other one for personal growth? I think it was just that one, right?
Yeah. There was a couple of them. I don't remember that far back.
Profit First is another book.
I did a lot of drugs, man. Like,
is there one that comes to mind that we haven't mentioned yet?
One thing that's tough for us restaurant operators is, and it's for some of us, for me, is like negotiations and like, so one of the books that I really gravitated towards was like Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, man. Like how to negotiate with not just vendors but with people. I mean, because I've got a team member that's like not wanting to come in or like not wanting to do this job. So how do I not split the difference where I'm pissing them off or I'm pissed off? Like how can we come to a mutual term? Yeah.
What was the biggest lesson from that book?
That you don't have, that both parties can walk away and still be stoked on the conclusion.
Yep.
You know,
what's one service you've hired or outsourced to?
My social media marketing.
And who do you use?
I use a local person.
Can you mention them so they
Sure,
can maybe get some more business?
Sweetly Simplified Solutions. Yeah.
Sweetly Simplified Solutions.
Yeah.
A little shout out for you. What is one technology you've adopted within your operation that's had a huge impact on communication, efficiency, profitability, anything along those lines?
Got to be 7 shifts, man. Like that's been awesome being able to like, have that on with like the team scheduling and then even the communication side of things, man.
And this is the last question. It's a doozy. Get ready for it. If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be gone with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom you could leave behind for the good of humanity and for your legacy. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
Wow, dude. Okay. Ask me again. What?
You don't have these questions memorized?
I'm usually by the end of it, I'm like already like, yeah. Okay.
Next.
Sorry, man.
I can read it again. If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure. Right. And here's really where the question is. What are the 3 pieces of wisdom that you could leave behind for the good of humanity and for your legacy?
Like one, never stop. Just don't stop trying, man.
One.
Be willing to just say yes.
2.
And just be vigilant, man. Watch what's going on around you.
Be mindful.
Mindful,
right?
man. Yeah.
3. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, for me to make an example of you, to get vulnerable and open up. It's not easy to talk about what we talked about today. And for your support, man. You've been an incredible support of me and my journey in the network. And I just want to see you in this moment for all those things, what you've done, and just congratulations on what you've overcome, dude. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable. And I almost forgot to give you an opportunity to call somebody out. So who's one person that you respect and admire? And if they were a guest on the show that hasn't already been a guest on the show, you'd be tuning in.
Dude, I became a major fanboy of Rudy Mick, right? Like recently, man.
Yeah.
Like that dude, like that. I mean, he's happy. He's like passionate about this, what he's doing, man. But he's so like analytical and in depth, man. Like hyper nerd about this, man.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
He's great, and Rudy is one of my key mentors in the network. And the idea behind these mentors are, in these 800 interviews, like who am I going to tomorrow to open a restaurant? And Rudy's been super proactive in the network. I'm trying to, squeeze as much wisdom as I can out of him. And the hope is going into the future, more and more, like maybe collaborating more with like Ryan Gromfin and David Scott Peters.
Yeah.
Rudy is just there right now. And he's so willing to be a part of what we're doing that like I've been kind of leaning into his wisdom. But over time, I hope to like distill like lessons and have, a little bit of all the people that have influenced the show over time. But yeah, Rudy Mick is great. I'm sure he will be back on the show before long because he's just always, he's just so active. And how can we connect with you if we're interested in maybe continuing the conversation? If we maybe want to come join your team if we're in Indiana and if we want to be a part of your scaling and come learn from you and be a part of what you got going on.
So being like digital first, man, if you just search Acorn Grill, like you'll find us everywhere, man. I'm super.
That's amazing too, because there's not another Acorn Grill like that. Maybe, but if they don't have the same SEO that you do.
You had a dude on the show, man. He was, and unfortunately, COVID kind of took the restaurant, but they had an Acorn of Denver or something like that over there, man. Yeah, it was one of the first podcasts I really like listened that you did, man. It was weird that I got it. I listened to this, man, at that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
One of my past guests.
Yeah, he was like a mixologist, man. We did all those cool things with like cocktails and whatever, man.
Awesome. This has been great, dude. I'll say it one more time. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Thanks, bro.
Cheers.